I work nights in a downtown hospital where the air tastes like disinfectant and old coffee after midnight. If you know hospitals, you know the way they keep two clocks at once, the wall time for rounds and meds, and the building's own time, whatever rhythm the generators and air handlers have taught themselves. Security floats that second clock. We carry the keys that make doors behave and the radios that make people answer when nobody wants to. My post is the central desk that looks out at the elevator lobby for the service cars, 3 big, squared-off boxes that move gurneys and linen and, when day shift leaves, the rest of the truth. We label the cars A, B, and C on the status panel. The engravings on the call station still say Schindler from a retrofit a dozen years ago. Day shift uses them like hallways. Night shift pays attention to their moods. The motors hum different when the counterweight is winning. The door nudging buzzer can sound apologetic or furious depending on who's listening. If you've ever had a car sit with its doors half open because someone's foot found a light beam and the controller can't decide to nudge or surrender, you know the particular kind of patience elevators demand. We'd shuttered the old North Annex on 5 after a water leak and asbestos remediation. Whole wing tarped and taped, negative air machines shouldered into doorways, smoke detectors bagged, card readers set to deny by default. Facilities had keyed off the hall call buttons on 5, played off, 2 leads wire nut and taped, a little square of paper in the back box that read "Do not reconnect" in Singh's neat printing. The plan was simple: no traffic to 5, no exceptions. You take the stairs if you must pass through, but you do not ride a car there because cars don't forget paths as quickly as people do. At 1:11 the lobby lantern on car B pinged once, soft chime, down arrow. And the car doors opened at ground with no one in front of them. That isn't weird. Sometimes the controller brings a car home for balance or fire service standby. The status panel over my desk said B, idle, lobby, door open. I looked because the sound interrupted the building's whisper. A minute later, the cab doors closed, the motor took a breath, and B started up without a hall call registered anywhere on the board. You can see it in the way the arrows flicker, up lantern on the car, no hall call on any landing, and the position indicator stepping, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is disabled, I said out loud to nobody, which is something you do on nights to keep the building honest. I thumbed the radio for facilities. Singh, B is traveling to 5. You got someone moving material? His answer came patient, no one should be on 5. I'll meet you at the lobby. The car stopped. The indicator showed 5. The doors stayed closed for 3 seconds and then opened to wherever 5 thinks it is. On my little repeater screen, CCTV view down the North Annex corridor behind the double smoke doors, I saw nothing but plastic and the slow breathing of the poly where the negative air machine took tiny bites out of the night. No one stepped out of B because there was no one in B to step out. The ride log prints on thermal paper because the controller believes in receipts. It chirped, 112B, land 5, door open. Then, 112B, door close, no passenger. The car sat a breath and drifted back to lobby as if polite. Elevators are needy. If you don't answer them, they repeat themselves, and if they repeat themselves in the same wrong way twice, you go watch them repeat it the third time. At 1:14 the hall station at lobby registered a call for B like someone jabbed the down button. There is no down from lobby. The controller knows that, so it interprets the request as a suggestion to come and be ready. Doors open. Empty cab. Doors close. Car goes to 5 again like a dog finding a gate somebody swore they had locked. Security Sergeant Hale came out from the console room with her keys already in her hand. She knows the look I get when a thing that is not a person decides to perform anyway. We're not doing 5 tonight, she said, the way you apologize to a child before you take away the sharp thing they love. She had the fat chrome key that makes the fire recall panel understand who's boss. On Phase 1 fire service you bring all cars to lobby, doors open, held. It's what you do when smoke has opinions. She turned the key. A chirp, a blink, a hum, the cars came home, obedient, doors wide, fans cutting off in the cab so you can hear people think. We stepped in to be together and turned the smaller key on the car operating panel, Phase 2, attendant control, the one where the operator says when doors open or close, not the controller. You use it for firefighter ops and the occasional linen cart that thinks it's royalty. Let's go see 5, Hale said, and she pressed 5. You have to hold door close on Phase 2, the button makes its own stern little tone until the panel decides you mean it. We rose. At 4 the motor strained a hair the way cars do when a counterweight passes where your stomach lives. At 5 the car eased into door zone and the interlock clunked like a decision. The doors wouldn't open. Phase 2 puts that choice in your hand. You press door open and the doors open unless a safety says don't. Hale pressed. The panel beeped. The doors tried and then thought better of it, a small nudge forward, then a polite retreat to a slit, like a person peeking through curtains at a storm. The interlock stayed true. Locked, then unlocked, then locked again as the controller sighed. We both looked at the slender world in the gap. Plastic. Blue tape and a cross on a double smoke door that said "No entry, negative air." The pressure the fans made on the other side of the smoke doors pulled a little draft through our tiny disobedience, and the draft carried the smell of plaster dust and lemon floor soap and something like cold water. Door protection, I said, because we speak to elevators the way we speak to animals, ask for the simplest wrong answer first. Hale waved her hand across the infrared curtain. Nothing, no beam to trip, because the car had not finished offering the doorway. She pressed and held door open hard like you might persuade a friend, and the controller gave us 3 inches more and then changed its mind completely and closed as if embarrassed. We rode down, because you do what the box wants you to do if what it wants isn't harmful. At lobby Hale turned off Phase 2 and I turned off Phase 1 because the trick of that pair of keys is you only get to make the big rules for a little while. We stood outside B and watched the floor indicator like a baby monitor. The car thought. At 1:20, all by itself, it went back to 5. Maybe your fire panel didn't tell the elevator controller to forget the call, Singh said when he arrived with his Pelican case and his day shift patients. He plugged his laptop into the controller head, a gray panel with a small LCD that insists the world is fine. No hall call registered at 5, he said, eyes moving the way an engineer's eyes do when the left hand is telling time for the right. Cab call to 5 at 1:12, 1:16, 1:20. No origin on landing. He scrolled. No car load change. Door cycle, open/close at 5 with no obstruction. He looked at us over the top of the laptop like a person who knows he is about to be left behind by something impolite. It's answering a push that doesn't exist. We went to 5 the hard way, the stairwell that smells like rubber treads and the filter of every breath a building has ever taken. The North Annex smoke doors were canvas taped into their frames. The negative air machine made a sound that isn't loud but travels in your bones. The exit sign ahead did the hospital thing where it throws a halo on the ceiling. Red bleeds out of exit signs as if they are trying to teach the walls how to be brave. Singh put his hand on the smoke door and the plastic moved under his palm like breath. He nodded at the little metal panel to the left of the elevator where the hall call plate had been. The plate was off, wires capped and taped, that don't reconnect tag exactly where he said he left it. No button to press, he said, to the building, not to me. We stood in the cold bright of the construction lights and listened to the elevator think behind the wall. If you live with machines you know their silences. A brake has the heavy quiet of a promise. A relay has a neat click like a person with good handwriting. Behind the wall the brake let go and the car settled a centimeter in its guides and then stopped, the way a bed lets go of you when you've decided to stand and then changes its mind because you haven't. The landing lantern did not light because there was no hall station to light it. We waited. Somewhere back at lobby the printer chirped, doing us the kindness of a receipt we couldn't yet read. Hale said, "We'll put B out of service," and we did, the good honest way, with a hand-lettered sign and a key in the service switch. Back at the desk the camera view of 5 showed plastic breathing and, for exactly one frame when Lorna in telecom rolled it back, a rectangle of darker dark where a door would have opened if doors could open when they have been taped shut. Compression artifact, she said before any of us could put a shape to it. I liked her for trying to keep us in daylight. I went up the stairs with Hale hard on my shoulder because sometimes you have to be accused by the same thing 3 times before you learn to shout. We turned down the annex side hall where the Polly pulled toward the negative like a slow breath. The door between the elevator lobby and the taped wing was propped with a 2x4 the contractors had cut with the corner still on it. The 2x4 was sweating little beads of resin the way sugar sweats if you leave it where wet air can teach it bad habits. The elevator hall smelled colder than the rest of the floor. I put my hand to the seam where the car doors would part on 5 and felt the faintest flutter, not air, not heat, something that time does to itself when it wants to be 2 things. Hale pressed her palm to the smoke door cancel plate the contractors had covered in painter's tape. She said, "We are here," like a firefighter says it when they have their knee in a burning hallway. C opened 2 inches, then stopped. There is a tone cabs make when they are about to nudge, half sorry, half polite. We got that tone and then a genius little burst of red under the door, a reflection of exit off something glossy that wasn't supposed to be there. The nudge failed. The door closed. The car sat a heartbeat and then a smaller sound, not an elevator sound, a dry shiver, traveled the metal like a word taped to a tuning fork. The floor indicator above the car's doors flicked 5 to blank like an eyelid and then back to 5. The printer down at the desk recorded, 231, door protection, NO obstruction, reset. The building decided to be bored with us then, the most insulting mercy of all. C stopped visiting 5. The ride log fell back to delivery runs and phlebotomy's morning tour. I hate when a thing stops misbehaving without being corrected, it's like listening to someone swallow a secret. Morning untangled the adult explanations and laid them out like gauze. Otis. Yes, all of them are Otis in their hearts no matter what the engraving says, sent a mechanic who clocked the door zone sensor that had been reading dirty since the day shift last week. He cleaned it with a rag he would have used on anything. He showed us a cracked harness on a hall jam at 5 that could have made a phantom call if the wrong wires had wished hard enough. He suggested a wet backplane on the lobby status panel from condensation off a bucket somebody had set where buckets should not be set. He replaced a relay because there was a relay in his hand and relays are the sort of thing you never regret replacing. These 3 together, he said, could fool a controller into thinking 5 wanted company. He was right in a way that keeps people paid. Here is what none of that addresses. Every car that went to 5 that night did it on the 12s and the 30s the way med rounds used to be before the annex closed, 112. 120. 203 if you count the 8 minutes it takes our nurse to do bathroom checks and chart a refusal. 231 which is when the respiratory therapist used to wheel the neb cart past the elevator and forget the clipboard on the handrail. I found an old schedule in a file drawer with coffee rings on it that knew those times like a hymn. Coincidence, I can hear you say, and I can nod like a person who works where oxygen and numbers matter, because coincidence makes the world easy to carry. There is something else. At the end of my shift I went to tear the out-of-service sign-off car B because the day shift hates when we let our hauntings linger into their math. The tape came away with the easy complaint of tape that thinks it has rights. Under the sign, at the top left of the stainless, there were 3 half-moons where a fingernail or a ring had worried the metal. Not new. Not old the way old gets brown. Just, insistent. The kind of mark you make when you stand with your hip against a door that refuses your softest request. I didn't take a picture because sometimes the only way I know to leave a thing alone is to let it be a thing I could lie about later. I did keep the ride log printouts, 3 slips of thermal paper that will bleach to ghost blue under my bed because thermal paper doesn't care about the stories you tell with it. The last line on the last slip is useless and I've kept worse for less. 231, floor 5. Door nudge, failed, door closed. If you hold the slip at an angle you can see the thermal coating shine like an almost mirror. The reflection in it is a person with a badge staring at their own face. You can tell yourself 1,000 bright lies about wire harnesses and wet panels and you'll be right enough to keep your job. You can also remember that buildings keep their own schedules after we close their doors, and that every time you teach a car to answer, it learns where it was needed, and sometimes, on the 12s and the 30s, it goes back to see if anyone's still waiting. I still sit the elevator lobby some nights, C doing the night's work, A and B minding their manners. When the chime sounds for a floor that isn't on the list, I say out loud what I said the first time, because it's rude not to. We're not doing 5 tonight. Most nights the building agrees. On the nights it doesn't, I turn a key I have no right to enjoy and ride up with it anyway, and I put my palm against a seam that should not breathe, and I listen for that little dry shiver in the metal that sounds, if you stand very still, like someone knocking softly to ask if you might please hold the door. 1 week later. They took me out of service for a full day and gave me back a lobby that minded its clock. Otis swapped the jam harness on 5, reseated a door zone sensor, and left a greasy thumbprint on the controller can like a signature. For 3 nights after, the cars behaved the way elevators behave when adults are watching, A for labs, C for linen, B for whatever's left over. We started believing in easy fixes again. On the 4th night, at 1:12, the ride log printer woke itself with the small clearing throat sound thermal printers make and fed out a skinny slip. B, Phase 2 enabled, key ID 0000, lobby. That line shouldn't exist. Phase 2 is a key in a lock in the cab, metal in metal, a turn you feel in your wrist. There's no 0000 for that because keys have teeth and we count them with hands, not maps. I walk to be like a person visiting a neighbor who plays the TV too loud. The cab sat doors open and quiet, fan off, the way fire service tells it to be. I stepped inside and the panel greeted me with the red diamond light, fire service, and the button beside door open had a faint smudge around it as though someone had pressed and held, then remembered they couldn't. I turned the real key because pretending is rude. The diamond winked, the cab sighed, the fan clicked back to life. I should have turned the key to off and gone to tell Hale we'd caught a controller sulking itself into firefighter mode. I didn't. I pressed 5 and then pressed and held door close, the panel chirping its little obedience tone under my thumb. We rose. Floor 2 slid past with the tired confidence of paint. 3. 4. The car eased into door zone at 5 and made the small mechanical confession it always makes when it's truly there, interlock unlock, interlock lock, ready. On phase 2, you decide when to open. I pressed door open and the doors gave me 1.5 inches, polite, curious, and then stopped like they'd remembered a promise. Negative air tugged a ribbon of cooler smell through the slit, plaster dust, lemon, and that cold water note that lives in construction lights. The exit halo out in the taped corridor painted a red coin under the cab threshold. It rolled a little with the fan. Door protection. I said to the cab, ritual first. Nothing on the IR, the curtain only wakes when doors are truly offering a doorway. The panel chimed again as if to say, not now. I should have ridden back down. Instead I did something night teaches, I announced myself. I put my palm flat against the unmoving leaf, like a firefighter steadying a line, and I said, security. We're here. Something on the other side of the tape answered with the smallest sound metal can make and still be called a sound, a dry drag, like a ring or a nail tracing a patient half circle. Not a knock. A worrying of steel. 1 arc, 2, 3, as if someone were sketching the top of the moon with enormous care. The landing indicator over the door blinked, 5 to blank and back, an eyelid thinking. The ride log printer back at the desk, which cannot smell or hear, recorded. 1:14, B, door nudge, failed, door closed. I let the panel make the decision my hand wouldn't. I released door open. The cab pulled the leaves tight with an apology. We rode down. The lobby air tasted like coffee again. I turned the phase 2 key off, then on, then off for good, the diamond dying in the panel like a slow idea. I taped a new out-of-service sign on B with the calm of someone placing a blanket. Morning logic did its work the way it always does. Telecom showed me a log where the recall bus burped and claimed, for a frame, that 5 had broadcast a service flag. Otis said a secondary contact on the door operator armature had oxidation and might chatter. Facilities said negative air plays tricks on thresholds. All correct. All daytime correct. I went back with a rag to take down my sign because day shift likes their worlds unhaunted. When the tape came off, the rag carried 3 fresh half-moons, high left on the stainless, shallow, clean arcs where a hard edge had drawn circles a fingertip wide. Not deep enough to catch a nail. Just enough to catch the light if you tilt your head and decide to see it. The slips from that week live with the others, thermal black softening toward fog blue. If you hold the 112, key ID 0000 at an angle, the coating throws a reflection, my face, the lobby behind me, the cab doors closed and honest. It's a silly picture. It helps. Because sometimes the building's second clock wakes and walks its old rounds, the 12s and the 30s, and the best you can do is turn the key you're paid to turn, say out loud that you're here, then write the time and initials in the log like that was the point all along.